where we're at with data now is that we're past that tipping point. Like as a society, we have created more data in the last 2 years than we created in the last, up until 2 years ago for our whole entire history. And everything that we do now has a data trail that goes behind us, pretty much follows us all individually. And so what we're seeing is the assembling of that and then sitting that over the top of very big property data sets that already exist, so that we're starting to, in that sales and marketing and property ownership space, we're seeing the change of inference and emphasis being not on what the property does, but on who are the people in that property and how are they using that property, and therefore how is that property behaving.
Welcome to Get Invested on the Property Hub podcast channel, the leading weekly show for Australians who want to learn how to unlock their full self, health and wealth potential. I'm your host, Bushy Martin, and each week I go deep with the best investors, experts, leaders and founders to find out what it takes to break free from the grind, discover freedom and to live by design. Subscribe now and join me and get invested in the life that you really want. Let's get started.
Hi freedom fighters. Imagine a quick and painless, stress-free and frictionless property future where we can all enjoy housing accessibility along with personalised and customised property conditions and transactions anywhere, anytime, in a consistent fashion right across the country. A time when the competitive adversarial structure of real estate and the financial hurdles of golden handcuffs of all things property are actually no more. Well, all of this is now possible and is actually being realised quicker than we think as AI-powered solutions, virtual reality, co-living and co-renting marketplaces, neighbourhood social networking apps, fractional investment and crowdfunding platforms, the Internet of Things, smart home automation, e-signing, chatbots, and AI-enabled property matching transform the world of property as we know it. And all of this is thanks to the exponential growth of what's collectively referred to as Proptech, one of the most exciting and positive industries in the country. That's made up of innovative technology businesses that support Australia's most important sector in terms of both dollars and sentiment. Now, you may not know that property is Australia's biggest asset class, and depending on who you talk to, there's somewhere between 10.9 to 12 million residential properties in Australia, worth around $10.4 trillion currently. Commercial real estate adds an extra $1.3 trillion odd dollars to that, and together they completely dwarf the total asset values of shares and superannuation by about 3.5 times. And according to the RBA, construction is the country's fourth largest industry and generates more than $360 billion a year in revenue. So as you can see, property is a massive but fragmented industry driven by ever-changing dynamics that's typically quite slow to change. But the property industry is so much more than just dollars and cents, as COVID has taught us just how psychologically important both home and community really are to each and every one of us. Because now more than ever, we truly understand the importance of feeling safe and secure at home and the value of community connection. But never before has it been more unaffordable and more out of reach for many hardworking Aussies, which is where Proptech comes to our collective rescue. The problems that the Proptech industry is solving are both deep and many, with amazing work being done to fix our pain points and reveal better ways to build, buy, sell, rent, develop, transact and manage property from just about every aspect. And thanks to the rapid arrival and almost universal adoption of ChatGPT and its copycats as the poster child for AI, this juggernaut has created heightened awareness of all the AI, automation and associated enabling technology work that's been quietly bubbling away in the background for many years. But as we discussed last week, the mainstream media relies on fear of change to grab and hold our attention. So AI and its fellow riders have been repeatedly painted as the four horses of the pending Armageddon. And all of this misses the point of the tremendous life-changing opportunity that this all brings, and nowhere is it more apparent than in the transformative power of Proptech. So to uncover what's really happening in Proptech and what the exciting future holds for all of us in this space, we're joined again by the founding president of the Proptech Association of Australia, Kylie Davis. As you heard last week, Kylie's an industry-leading disruptor and creative communications catalyst that builds on her unique combination of a 25-year plus career across the mainstream media players in big data, alongside her own Proptech entrepreneurial success and successfully starting and selling the real content and home preso businesses that collectively now allow her to leverage her award-winning recognition as the leading global expert on the Australian PropTech landscape as Entrepreneur in Residence at Reach Australia, part of the largest PropTech accelerator in the world. And her human-centric and mental wellness real estate focus all assist her to advise and consult a range of tech companies and professional associations where her subject matter expertise in PropTech, real estate and property helps others through her PropTech Guru coaching and the hosting of her informative and inspiring PropTech podcast. So welcome back, and let's get invested again, Kylie.
Thanks, Bushy. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Always love talking to you because it's just the creative and transformative side of what you're dealing with. I can imagine would be quite inspirational. But I guess just to set the scene, Kylie, in terms of where we're at with property, what's your read on the biggest problems and challenges that need fixing across property?
Oh, well, look, I think the biggest problem that we've got is supply, but supply of housing that people are going to actually live in. We don't just need more Gold Coast apartments for holiday makers, although they are on their own awesome. We actually need lots of property that is affordable for people to live in and to start to really increase the number of properties that are out there. But the reason that we struggle with that is because of the silos between all the different kind of sectors in the industry and all the different elements that need to come together in order to solve those problems. Because there is, sadly, and I'll confess this right up front, there is no one single PropTech that can be a magic button that can, magically bring housing supply to get, magically change housing supply. What we need is, consistent improvement across about 7 different areas, which are planning and regulation, how we plan for new builds, how we plan for existing builds, how we make sure that building is to standard. We need, increased improvement around the suitability and availability of blocks. So how transparent is it to find properties that can be either upgraded or improved? We need a lot of work to be done around construction and the materials and logistics of how we build. This is one of the biggest areas of PropTech at the moment around that construction piece, because we still build properties, especially here in Australia, the way that we've done them for the last, 250 years. Men turn up with bricks. They dig trenches, they put bricks in, they put concrete in. Prefab only makes up about 5% of residential property, unlike Europe, where it's much bigger. Yep. We need a lot of innovation happening around that valuations and finance sectors to impact pricing, to understand what we're really buying and to give us transparency around what it's really worth. Then there's a whole lot of stuff going on around customer insights and the journey of to make it like buying a pizza or ordering an Uber. And then there's the last bits around, how do we sell and buy them? And then how do we manage them and keep them in great condition and maintain them once we own them? So there's all those 7 areas which are where PropTech is happening individually and then starting to join the dots, because the data that sits across all those 7 areas needs to actually start to shake hands so that the AI can put a layer over that makes it seamless, if that makes sense.
Makes perfect sense, and you've certainly painted a picture of a very diverse industry, and the silos, I think, like most industries that have been around a long time, it's the silos that create the issues. And just the mere fact that we've, 26 odd million people, we've got 6 or 7 states that have all got different legislation, different practices, processes. It's actually mad enough.
For all 7 of those silos.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're talking squared thing, complexity squared, not just times 7 by 7.
100%, and exactly. And then there's all the entrenched systems and processes which become hurdles in themselves, because changing that momentum is also the challenge. But let's sort of jump into the future a bit then. I'd love to get your thoughts on what are the technological and behavioural trends that you're seeing that are changing and shaping how property and real estate is actually being practiced both now and into the future.
Yeah, so look, I think some of the trends are going to be a little bit disappointing because we've been talking about them for ages, but they start off with big data and big data has been a trend for the last 5 years, but where we're at with data now is that we're past that tipping point. Like as a society, we have created more data in the last 2 years than we created in the last, up until 2 years ago for our whole entire history. And everything that we do now has a data trail that goes behind us, pretty much follows us all individually. And so what we're seeing is the assembling of that and then sitting that over the top of very big property data sets that already exist, so that we're starting to, in that sales and marketing and property ownership space, we're seeing the change of inference and emphasis being not on what the property does, but on who are the people in that property and how are they using that property, and therefore how is that property behaving. We're also seeing the rise of property being almost like a data generator. So we've traditionally always thought of property as a fixed dead asset, like, it's inanimate. It's an inanimate object. But increasingly through the rise of, the Internet of Things and through, drone technology and virtual digital twin technology, literally every piece of, every single screw, nail and piece of material in the properties that we own is a piece of data that we're starting to get greater visibility over. And then because we're getting greater visibility over that data for the objects that exist in the data in our property data world.
Yeah.
And because we have great data sets around mapping and all of that, they're starting to come together so that, the planning regulation is starting to be digitized. And we're starting to see those gaps filled. One of the slowest parts of our industry though to digitize and transform though is actually the building sector. So a lot of work to be done there.
Yeah.
They're a missing link at the moment.
Yeah, I totally get it. And given the challenges that the construction industry has and continues to have, that's not going to be something that's going to be solved quickly, because and we've got generational layers of trades in there are used to doing things a certain way, as you touched on earlier. So I think that there's some pretty big hurdles to jump in that. But is the industry open to it, do you think?
I think they're starting to. I think the biggest challenge that we get that gets thrown up to PropTech, and we've seen this sort of in early days in sales and marketing PropTech, and now we just see the same things come through. Like literally, sales and marketing PropTech was the first wave, and now it's starting to work its way through. But the comment, that's not how we do things around here. Like but that's not how we've always done them. That is kind of the biggest challenge that all PropTechs have to get over. The difference between now and 5 years ago though, is that now we have better data, so we're becoming increasingly aware of how much it costs to keep doing things the way we've always done them. Yeah. And what we're seeing across industries that say, we don't need to do this because the way we've done it is the way we've always done it, is that if you take that kind of mentality, then there are a couple of things that I can tell you straight away are going on in your business. You are hiring too many people to manually fill in the gaps that either AI or automation could be saving you time in.
Yep.
So you're not running a terribly efficient business. You're not making the money that you should. And you're probably got very stressed out people who are trying to deliver better customer service or increasing levels of customer service without the right tools to it. So you will also have stronger mental health or stress issues inside your business.
Yeah, extremely well said. And that's starting to open their eyes about the opportunity that's there. But it's something else I'd love your commentary on, because historically, all the data or most of the data that's associated with property from an outsider's perspective is pretty much rear view mirror historical. What's happening in the predictive space? Because, and I'm talking here for investors are always trying to look at, okay, well, if I buy a property now, what's it going to be like? Are you seeing anything at all that's going to be useful in that regard in the industry?
So the bigger the data sets get, the more useful they become for predictive analytics and throwing it forward. We're starting to, one of the missing data sets that exists in the industry is that new builds in more real time. So we see more build data coming out still quarterly, or which is too slow. So we actually need greater transparency around what's coming onto the market, what's been started, what's been completed, what's on market now, what's been approved. We need to see that coming through more quickly. And also around land sales, so like house and land sales, we need a lot more transparency around what's going on in that sector, because that has always been a bit of a closed box as well. Once we start to see those data sets, we'll then start to be able to predict a lot more what future supply looks like, or what future supply is coming onto the market. So then you'll be able to see when are these things, when is this monster apartment block due to be completed in my suburb? Therefore, what's that going to do to my, my walk-up investment unit in the area? How is it going to impact on that? We'll start to see those numbers feeding through more reliably. Yeah. It's still a bit of magic at the moment, I think, in the algorithms.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of black box crystal balling that goes on, and given the dynamics that influence the industry from the global right down to the local level, it's always going to be challenging. Let's face it. But just interesting. So I'd love to sort of turn to the old favourite topic that the media has been talking about for some time now, and that is climate change. From the Proptech perspective, are you seeing climate change disrupting residential property in particular? And what are the responses, and what do we need to be doing about it as you see it moving forward?
So climate change is impacting property significantly, and we will feel the impact of this upon our homes in the next 18 months to 3 years. But like, there is a big change coming down the pipe, and the change is that the state and federal governments have come together in a harmonised project where they are looking at what role existing property, Australia's 10 to 12 million properties that exist out there in the market, how are they performing as in terms of carbon and energy usage and efficiency? Because if Australia is to meet its goals around, our carbon targets for 2050, we absolutely have to get on top of this, because residential property is one of the biggest generators of both energy use and carbon. Yeah. So what is happening is that there's about to be rolled out. There is a new rating system coming down the pipe for existing residential property. And what we know from the preliminary look at the data that is coming out around that is about 84% of Australia's existing property, on a scale out of 10 stars, probably rates about a 2 or a 3 stars in energy efficiency.
But
yowza, right? Youch. Now, what does this mean? Now, why is this happening? So the banks, in order for our banking system to meet their targets around what they have to do, and they are coming top down, right? They are they are analysing their mortgage portfolios for carbon risk and for energy efficiency risk. And they are finding that, 84% of the properties in their mortgage portfolio are kind of 2 out of 3 stars. So if you've been wondering why your council is so keen to knock down old homes in your area and build new ones, this is the answer to that question. I live in Russell Lea in Sydney, and we in Canada Bay, and Canada Bay Council will knock down anything that's anything literally and build something new, because the new homes have all got a minimum of sort of 8-9 stars in the NAIDES ratings, whereas they're replacing cold, small, pokey, stinking hot in summer, freezing cold in winter boxes, and it's the fastest way for councils to hit their targets as well. Everybody's got targets. So what does this mean? It means that once the shock of the rating comes through and we all start to get used to this idea, our questions when we go to buy a property or invest in a property or rent a property is going to not just be, does it have open plan living, and is there enough bathrooms, and what are the appliances in it? The questions are going to start to be, how much is it going to cost to run this house? Like, what is the rating on it? Because the rating is going to give you an indication of what your power bills are going to be for it. And it will give you an indication of how good the insulation is on it, and how good, and this is really important for investors too, because it is going to create a whole new motivation to upgrade our property according to both energy efficiency and livability of the property. So the idea of being able to just buy any old thing and rent it out with, mold in the bathroom and freezing cold in winter and not care about it as a landlord. Once we get through that initial period, two things are going to happen. The properties that are low star ratings will start to suffer from a valuation sense, and then they will start to suffer from an ability to how much they can charge rent. Whereas the properties that have higher stars will have higher valuation. So literally you'll be able to have a 4-bedroom home, 2 homes of 4 bedrooms and the same number of bathrooms and the same, quality of kitchen, but one being a 2-star rating and one being an 8-star rating. The 8-star rating will be worth considerably more than the lower one. Wow. And also you will struggle to get finance on the lower star rating. Like you will be paying more to buy in your mortgage, the ones that cost more. So you'll be paying more they'll be worth less, but you'll be paying more for the privilege of buying them. You'll need to quickly invest and upgrade them as an investor to get them up to code. And while you don't do that, you will find your insurance more expensive. You will find a whole lot of things more difficult to do. And that's the kind of carrot and stick. On the other hand, you'll find it easy to get green loans to upgrade them. So there's a lot coming down the pipe in this space.
Actually, very exciting. I was an architect for nearly 20 years, and passive design and orientation and materials and the whole bit was a fundamental part of our education. And I'm showing my age here, but that was a long time ago. It's never really filtered through into the built environment in Australia because it's all developer driven. So it's, it's right down. The architecture I used to say was about 100 mils thick as a skin on the outside. And we've got almost upholstered eskies at the moment as a consequence of that are leaking holes and no good. So what I'm loving about what you're sharing there is that it's actually going to drive the market, because that's if you try and use the thick, it never really works. It's a massive opportunity actually, and it'll become a very important criteria for investors to be keeping an eye on the potential for the actual property itself, and to avoid those that are going to be a costly problem, both in terms of financing and then ongoing. So, and then that's the time frame. It's pretty short from what you mentioned. Can you just reinforce what that sort of time frame is, Kylie?
Yeah, so the rating system is going to start rolling out later this year, and then there will be a period of adjustment while we all get used to the idea. And there is a whole lot of work going on in the background around upskilling valuers and everyone to be able to give, so you can have someone come to your home and say, right, well, if this is your home right now and it's rated X stars, what do you need to do to upgrade it and improve it? And what would that work look like, and what could you expect at the end of it? There'll be a whole lot of, there's a lot of stuff going on in terms of the ability for you to do research and self-service, or then bring someone in as the next level, and then and support what you need to get done.
Well, it's probably you mentioned the demo.
You'll be able to buy reports. You'll be able to,
yeah, okay. Because what I'm seeing is the challenge will be, if you're buying an old property, it's going to cost too much to upgrade. It's probably going to be cheaper to bowl it over and start again. So there's going to be a lot of churn, I would have thought, in the industry to reach compliance, because of the cost to renovate or refurbish is probably going to be out of the question for a lot of people. So it's going to create some really interesting dynamics there. I want to sort of drill down into the weeds a bit now, if you like. Given that you're actively working with a whole series of PropTechs, can you share with us some of the PropTechs that you're seeing, particularly that are helping property investors, and perhaps share a few examples of what you're seeing in that space?
Oh, sure. Look, the property investor space is one of the most, well, it's a small subsector, but it's growing really quickly, and there's a lot of really innovative stuff coming out. A lot of it comes around that ability for property investors to both understand and manage their assets, or to, so what's my portfolio look like? What needs to be done to it? What's the value of it now? How does that compare to last year? How does that compare to 5 years ago? And also the technology to help you build your own plan, your own investing strategy, and then to analyze the data to work out where to buy next, what to look for, and alerts to properties that might fit the bill. And I think what they're doing is they're providing you with that access to data that previously you needed to have 7 or 8 different subscriptions, one for RP data, one for maybe domain price finder, and then you'd have to collate a spreadsheet and do all of that sort of stuff. We're seeing some very smart apps around that. We're also seeing that kind of tied in with some builder, like some buyer's agent kind of software and things like that. So Milk Chocolate is one that are doing some very nice work in that space, where they've got the whole kind of back end with their milk bar, and then they've also got their hands-on consulting service if you actually want to talk to a human as part of it and you want some personalized service. I've had a complete blank on everybody else. But Prop Hero is another very good one that has won awards many years in a row. It is, again, mainly through an app that allows you to kind of work out what your strategy is, start to find property, get help if you need it, but actually analyze, see all of the data going on behind it. Yep. What we're seeing, though, too, in this space is that kind of functionality starting to move out more into the first home buyer space too. And how do I save for my deposit? How do I now start to see, what's going to come next? If I decide to, upgrade my rent, what does that impact on my savings? How long is it going to take me to get this deposit together? All of that sort of stuff. So there's some cool apps. Property Dollar is one. There's a new one coming out called Scale App. They're designed to help you understand how to pull together the money that you need to start to build your portfolio, and how much you're going to need and what you should be looking at to invest in.
Great.
There's just a few.
Yeah, great ways to nurture and set some goals and then track how you're working towards it, which is awesome. Love that. Now, I understand recently that the Real Estate Institute in New South Wales has actually appointed their first AI board advisor. I'm not sure whether you're across that, but I'd love your thoughts on that and how that's being received in the industry.
Look, I think it's a really novel idea. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. AI is a great way to capture very complex data sets and then make it really simple to interrogate. So asking straightforward questions, because the AI has all of that information in the background, they're able to give answers quite quickly that otherwise would have required quite a lot of research. So, look, New South Wales real estate law is quite complex and quite detailed. So I imagine that she's quite an asset to the board in being able to pull up answers to questions around, issues they might be dealing with quite quickly. Yeah. Set them straight before they go off down a track.
But I love the way they're tapping into the data for exactly that purpose. And I guess this is probably the start of many things to happen, both at government and in the private sector as far as that goes. But beyond that, and beyond what we've touched on, are there any other sort of future innovations that you're seeing or getting a sense of that are likely to disrupt and influence the future of property moving forward?
Look, I think the digitisation of local government data sets is really important. It's happening mainly at a individual PropTech level at the moment. So PropTechs like Archistar and PropCode and Udrew, Can I Build? These are all PropTechs that are using their knowledge of local government data sets to say, yes, you could build that here. No, that would not be compliant. What does compliance look like? Run your plans through the system and get a tick or a highlight on what does or doesn't work. That's really important because the time it takes for approvals is still far too long. And it involves, a person sitting down and sort of applying their best knowledge to it, which might change based on how they feel when they wake up in the morning, or how much their workload is already that they've got to do, or, what pressure they've had from a counsellor, from, somewhere down the conversation they've had with someone. So I think I think that's a really important opportunity for us, and it opens up like we're seeing with Archistar, the ability to look at any block of land and say, or any, location address and say, what else could we do there, or what could get built there. And I think that's really important for us as investors to know, because it's helping us understand and model opportunity really quickly. And especially when this new climate stuff and energy efficiency stuff starts to come through, that's going to add a whole lot more, there's going to be a whole lot more, what else could be done to this property? Like in the old days, Bushy, you'll remember this, as property investors, you'd look for a double block so you could knock it down and put 2 townhouses on, right? Well, yep. The investing opportunities of the future are going to be, can we not, how quickly can we grab this? Can we knock it down and actually build something new on it with instead of just building a little 3-bedroom brick cottage bungalow, can we actually put 2 apartments or 2, townhouses on it that are passively designed, 8-9-star ratings or 10-star ratings, and upgrade it that way? That they're going to be the sort of building development options of the future, or small investment options of the future.
Yeah, exciting, because the feasibility stuff on that, traditionally it takes a long time, and you need to involve a lot of players and do a lot of research to arrive at that. If you can do it at least reasonably quickly to give you an idea if it's even worth pursuing any further, then that's a massive improvement on how things are done. Now, I want to shift gears. Sorry, go on.
No. So they're doing that stuff in minutes now, not in months.
Exactly.
And that's where the AI is starting to play out. Yeah.
Very exciting. I want to sort of shift pace a little bit, because I know you're an expert in sort of human-centric real estate, and along with your interest in mental wellness through your RISE initiative. Can you share with us your concerns, pain points, and potential solutions in these areas from a PropTech perspective that's going to ensure that the industry continues to be sustainable?
Sure. I think the biggest challenge for PropTech, and the biggest challenge for adopters of PropTech, and look, every company and every industry has people in it that are innovators and early adopters, right? And they often get just as frustrated with the people in their team or the people coming up behind them who are struggling to get it. They just don't get it. We hear that a lot too. That's not how we do things around here is one thing. And then the other hand is they just don't get it. Can't they see the benefits? But I think that speaks to a couple of things that we know now are going on in our brains. The first thing is, why is change so hard? Why is PropTech hard to adopt? The first reason is that because our brains are hardwired to look for threat and risk. And we define threat and risk by things that we don't understand or things that could eat us. and that's not something we mentally, cognitively, our brains churn and think that is the lizard part of our brain that just sends cortisol and adrenaline to our system to say, God, watch out, run or freeze or fight or flight, right? We do that whether it is, a woolly mammoth about to land on us, or whether it is a mobile phone pinging us all the time with notifications that tell us that our boss is looking for us, right? Our brains don't understand the difference. They're designed to respond to the sense of risk. And so I think in PropTech, what we need to understand that, and we need to stop talking about the risk of standing still, or we need to actually stop making it. We need to make change feel familiar. We need to make people feel safe to come into our technology, and we need to only highlight risk. Our brains define risk by what feels familiar, not by actually what is risky. And so when we dive into some of the mental health thinking or psychology and neuroscience around it, this explains why we do things that are stupid, that we know are risky, but we do them because they make us feel safe. So it might be, I'll just have another drink, because at least I know how that feels, even though I know I shouldn't. We might behave in a way that even, upset somebody, even though we shouldn't, but we understand the game around it. So we do it. We behave in, our brains basically send us down paths that feel familiar, rather to avoid, because they think that will make it not risky, as opposed to whether it is risky or not. So I think as an industry, PropTech needs to get better at humanising our tech. We need to talk to the benefits of it, not just the features. We need to really understand the psychology of change and adopting change and get better at the human-centric capability of that. Now, as technologists, we have tended to see that as soft skills, that, is what the girls do or the boys go out and build the tech. But actually the soft stuff is the hard stuff, right? And it's where you get the real adoption. So we need to get much better at that, that soft skill. And we need to start to gently point out, a little bit like the carrot and stick stuff, start to gently point out that the behaviour that our prospects who are not adopting, we need to start to point out that actually that is risky, that the risk is there, not over here where we are. And so we need to make them feel safe to come on the journey and actually see what they're moving away from.
Yeah, I think the other thing that's in amongst that, you touched on the reptile brain. I think the challenge that, and this is not just with property, but across the board, is the exponential rate of change that's being facilitated through AI and all of the advancements that we're seeing right across tech, is that we've just not evolved to the point where we can cope with that rapid amount of change, and therefore the stress, pressure, and mental health issues that are likely to flow through from feeling like we're being forced to adopt something before we're ready, or just not having the capacity to do it, is certainly going to be a challenge. And this is not just in property; this is across the board, I think. What's your read on that, Kylie?
Look, I think we're at a real crossroads at the moment as a society, in that we have escalating at like through the roof levels of expectation. Like, we've seen what the tech is capable of, and we have escalating ideas around what good, what customized, what great experiences look like. And we want them, and we want it to be seamless, and we want it to be stress-free, and we want it to be, easy. And then we have reality. And at the moment, the reality is that the tech, while the technology in some areas is showing us what's possible, the technology hasn't been adopted, or it doesn't exist across all of the areas. And like those 7 silos that we were talking about across the property universe, yep, to deliver to that to deliver to that level yet. And so in the absence of that are a whole bunch of people doing their very best at their job, with escalating, in times of, economic tightness, and therefore not enough people to do the job to the level that everybody wants it done to, or to the quality, or to the standard. And so people, as individuals, we are internalizing that need to be delivering to that level. The only way off the hamster wheel is to basically stop the hamster wheel and say, actually, we cannot keep running like this. We have to take the time out to learn the new thing that will actually rescue us from being on the hamster wheel. But if we keep running like this, we're literally just going to run ourselves into the ground. So then we need to be looking in our businesses or in our lives about, well, how do we actually just take the 10 minutes a week, or the hour a week, or the whatever it is, to start to research what you should be doing instead, or what could solve the problem, or understanding the one thing that you don't understand about what you're using at the moment, to get a little bit more functionality out of it, so that we can actually practice change.
Yeah, very well said.
Change is hard. You need to practice it. Yeah.
Well, it is. It's a real skill in itself, and given that everything is driven around, faster, better, cheaper, that's pretty much the underlying fundamental of everything we do. To push back against that and embrace time as our friend, and then perhaps lower our expectations a little bit, and allow time to do its work and its healing work. I think is probably the challenge of our current world that we live in, actually, Kylie. I know I'm sort of getting off track here a little bit, but I think the number of the increased anxiety, work stress, and everything now, so it's almost endemic in a lot of industries now. At some point in time, there needs to be a wake-up call at the individual and group level to push back a little bit on that and just slow the bus down a tad. But I'm probably being a bit idealistic that regard. But I guess
No. Yeah, look, I don't think so. We see, look, there's the old sort of it's not a Venn diagram, but it's like the three things that you can only have two of the three things, right? You can have quality, you can have speed, or you can have quantity. Like, but you can't have you can have quality, you can have speed, or you can have cheap, but you can't have. So if you want to cheap and quick, then you're not going to get quality. Yeah, if you want quality and you want quality and cheap, then it's going to take time. If you want, you can't have all three of them together. Maybe we can once we get the tech delivering it rather than the humans to deliver it, or the AI to be delivering much more of this rather than the humans. But at the moment, our choices are which of the two do you want? And stomping your foot and saying, but I want all three, just has a human cost. And there's nowhere more that we see this in the building industry. So in construction, where the mentality of, but that's not how we've always done things, is quite deep rooted. 26 out of 100,000 contractors and tradies take their own lives each year in Australia. That is the highest of any trade. So every building we build pretty much has a human life attached to it under the current models of building. And there is the technology coming out now that is making that unnecessary. David Chandler in New South Wales done a fantastic job with rolling out the ICERT certification. He's revealed the data, and the way that he's been using Proptech has been identifying just the manual processes that don't have handoffs, that are badly run. We're just sort of throwing people in the deep end and hoping everyone does their best. Just doesn't work. The technology is able to join those dots and make it much more seamless.
Yeah, beautifully said. I guess just to bring it all to a head before I slip into the second round of the old ambush series that we'd like to get your thoughts on the podcast Fast Forward. Is there anything that we haven't touched on in the PropTech space that you'd like to share that we need to be aware of?
I feel like I've done a really bad job sharing some of the names of the investor PropTechs that I want to share with you. So I'm going to give you a list of them, and you maybe can share them with listeners afterwards.
Brilliant. We'll get the listeners to actually email in, and we can share that with them. And in that case, Kyle, that's a great suggestion. All right, well, I'm going to jump straight into the bushfire lightning round. And the first of those is, what's your favourite quote and why?
Oh, Einstein's quote, the definition of insanity is to do the same thing over again and expect a different result.
Yeah, in the PropTech space, it would have to be a credo. That's an easy one.
I don't know if it's... I think it's more for real estate agents and and legacy industries. Stop doing it the way you've always done it and expect it to go better this time.
And exactly right. On the literary front, what's the top book that you'd recommend we read and why? And probably with a PropTech flavour, if there is one.
Thinking Fast and Slow, and look, it's an oldie, but it's a goodie, and it's great for people in the property industry because we are an industry of small business, and that is, and it's old as well. The E-Myth, because it talks about the importance of systems and processes, and while it was written pre-digitization of the entire universe, if you think about how much easier it is now to create great processes and to share information across teams and to connect everybody up, that book kind of really does bring it all together.
I've been reading Mo Gaudat's book because he played very heavily in the AI space with Google, and now he's sort of flipped the other way, so he's sort of getting the balance between the two. It's probably a more recent version of the E-Myth in that context. Next question, Kylie. If I gave you $50 million in cold hard cash right here, right now, what would you do with it and why?
I'd give some to my kids so they could buy a property each. What would I do with it? I would create a fund for PropTech with an emphasis on PropTech that will save the planet. because I do believe that we have the technology to really make a fundamental difference in that space.
100% agree. Yep, 100% agree. Yeah, switching gears again, I'm a big believer that, with what we do habitually ultimately determines what we achieve in life. So I'd love for you to share a sort of personal happy habit or a rewarding ritual or daily discipline that you employ that's contributed most to your success today.
I think, look, it's not a daily ritual because I'm terrible at daily rituals. We have a house down on the south coast, and I know when I'm cooked, and I give myself permission to come down here. And just, sometimes my husband comes with me. Sometimes he says, "No, I think you should. I'll come when it's safe." So I think knowing your own energy levels and being honest with yourself about when you need to sort of unplug.
Not many do. There's still a lot in this industry, particularly the male gender, who she'll be right, mate, and just push through and then end up suffering the consequences down the track. So I think that's a really good message there, Kylie, in terms of going, just really listen to yourself, and if you need to take time or change the pace, then because this is a marathon, not a sprint, then that's really good advice. So if we were to sort of summarise everything we talked about over the last two episodes, Kylie, probably with a Proptech flavour, what are the key takeaways that both aspiring and existing investors need to take from our conversation?
Look, I think there's two things. I think we live in unparalleled times where the information is literally at your fingertips, and so while it is there, it can't do the work for you as to about making a decision and knowing what is right for you. So I think it's this combination of knowing who you are and what you want to achieve in terms of your investing goals and your life goals. So most of us aren't investing for the sake of investing. We're investing because we want to create wealth for our families, and we want to, set our kids up or make sure that we're comfortable in old age and not a burden on everybody. So know what your goals are, and then look for the technology that can help you achieve that as easily as possible and take as much of the stress out of it as possible, and be open to giving it a go. I think that's what I would. I just did think of one prop tech that I really wanted to share with your guys, and that is because a lot of us have kids who are growing up or, entering adulthood, and we want to make, bank of mum and dad, we want to make funds available to them, but you don't necessarily want to gift it, right? Because you might need that in 20 years for yourself. So how do you manage that? And there is a really brand new PropTech called Coopity, which has basically streamlined and digitized the old tenants in common law, and now has been able to get funding around it with banks and things, so that you can actually do a shared ownership, shared title with your siblings, children, who, mother-in-law, whoever you need to support, so invest in their property and then have an exit plan for it and have really clear guidelines around what that looks like. And I think that's an interesting investment, a new investment opportunity that has been around for ages, but you had to do a lot of work for research around yourself. But now there's kind of streamlining it and meaning that you can invest in your kids and still have access to the funds when you need them.
Love it. I'm going to get your help to get Cooperative on the show, actually, because I think there's a massive...
They'd love to be on, I'm sure.
Yeah, there's a generational link there that I think is sort of passing it on. So I'd love that. Last question, really. If I ask you to get invested, what does that mean to you, Kylie?
I think, to me, it means do something that you love. Do something that you love that lights you up every day and that makes your life better. And whether that's financial or whether in monetary based or whether it's just something that feeds your soul, do it. Hopefully it's both.
Yeah, beautifully said. And now, for those like myself who've really resonated with what you've shared with us over the last two episodes, how can we find out more and get more involved with what you're doing, Kylie?
So if you're curious about the world of PropTech, please go to the proptechassociation.com.au website. All of our information about who we are and our members is on there. If you're interested in me personally, proptechguru.com.au is my website.
Yeah, we'll have all of those links in the show notes. Just in sort of closing, I'm asking everyone who's listening in to email us at hello@knowhowproperty.com.au with what are the biggest property challenges that PropTech can actually help you overcome. So make sure you email us through, and I'll share those with Kylie. And for those that make the effort, we'll give that list of PropTech apps and others that you suggested, Kylie. So love that. Look, I really want to thank you again for taking the time to inspire and educate us on the quite positive transformational opportunity that PropTech's creating for us all. And for all the great work that you're doing in the space, by the way, Kylie. People like yourself do a lot of work behind the scenes with very little reward. What I love about what you're doing is that you're inspirational to the PropTech industry, but you're also communicating messages out to those far and wide in terms of what the benefits and opportunities that brings. So I just want to personally thank you for the enormous work that you're doing in the space. Now, before we close, if anyone would like to delve deeper into your specific property needs or challenges in a confidential setting, book in with me for a personal solution session by clicking the link in the show notes so that we can spend a dedicated and undivided hour on all things that you need and want to know about your property journey. In addition, I need to ask everyone a big favour that will only take a couple of seconds of your time, because currently just under 70% of you that watch the Property Hub podcast don't subscribe. So if you've ever enjoyed our shows and videos following the countless hours that myself and my support team put into preparing and producing episodes, can you do us a massive favour and hit the like and the subscribe button now? It helps the Property Hub channel more than you know, and I promise you that the bigger our Southern Cross-Isle Stereo and Hot Copper channel continues to get, the better the guests are going to get, just like Kylie, and the better your investment learnings and property results will get. And to continue to listen to our great conversations and can take them further, join us on our Property Hub Collective interactive Facebook community by just clicking the link in the show notes. And that brings us to the end of another great, eye-opening and very exciting conversation. So thanks again for getting invested, and let's make sure we keep the conversation going, Kylie.
Thanks so much, Bushy. It's been great to be here.
Thanks for tuning in to Get Invested on the Property Hub podcast channel, your home for property investment insights and inspiration. Make sure you subscribe to Property Hub for free. Get your weekly dose of Get Invested inspiration along with every episode of Realty Talk, Australia's top online property show for red-hot property investing news and insights direct from industry leaders and influencers. And finally, I'll see you next time.